You hear the term keep hope alive, and keeping hope alive, I think, gives you something to live for. When I see positive things that happen in my life and around me, I know that there is hope. From Anchorage, Alaska, this is Vivian Melde, and I share hope.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Vivian Melde here in Anchorage, Alaska, at the Organic Oasis. If you're ever in Anchorage, you got to come to this place. So, Vivian, I want you to tell us a little more about you and what you do here in Anchorage, kind of a little bit of your background, just a couple of paragraphs worth, and then we'll jump into the 5 questions, and you can get a lot more into your story in the 5 questions.
Okay. All right. Well, I've been living here on and off, actually, since 1966. I arrived as a child. My parents moved up here from California, but originally from Guam, Marianas Islands. I work in the environmental field. I do planning and emergency management work, at least for the last 16 years. Before that, worked in public affairs for an electric company here in Anchorage.
So, Vivian, you know how the interviews work. We ask the same 5 questions about hope from each person in the interview, and that's 1,000 people from around the globe. So thank you for being a representative of your group of people, which we will discover who that is more and more as we go along here. Mm-hmm. So question number 1, Vivian, is what is your definition of hope? So how do you think about hope? A favorite quote about hope? Whatever you want to say, how would you define the word hope?
I think, to me, hope is kind of holding that candle. It's really kind of a state of being. It's a positive way of looking at things that happen to you in your life, and it's you hear the term keep hope alive, and I think that it's important to do that because keeping hope alive, I think, gives you something to live for. And you, for me, I have hope that our world will evolve in a much better way. As I see things eroding around me in other areas, in politics, in the way people are kind of separating, and it doesn't feel that great, but still, when I work with young people and when I see positive things that happen in my life and around me, I know that there is hope that we can achieve something greater.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Great answer. All right, so Vivian, tell me question number 2, your answer for that. So who's been most influential in your life with hope? So who's shared and given a lot of hope to you?
I think my parents, and mostly my father. A few years before my father died, he wanted to take me around in the areas in the South where he picked cotton and kind of grew up, and showed me areas where either he lived or had traveled. And so we took this road trip, my mom, my dad, and I, and he started telling me stories about, how he was treated at times, and I remember, and it wasn't very nice treatment at all, and especially like young kids who were just nasty to him, especially when he was picking cotton and working. His father was a sharecropper, but the kids all work. They pick cotton, and I remember thinking at one point when he was telling me these stories, is like, wow, how can you know, he's such an open and giving and happy, joyful person, and to have gone through what he went through, it's like, wow, how could you not hold that against people, and you're friends with you make a friend everywhere you go, and so I think between him and my mom, and when I moved up to Alaska, my mom actually started writing me letters, and between the letters that she shared with me, it meant a lot for her to express the love that she had for me, because it wasn't that easy for her and I to, when I was growing up as a teenager. And of course, moms and daughters have their issues, but it wasn't until I received letters from my mother where she really just poured her heart out to me, and how they both held the positive energy to help me get through, the tough times in my life. And I think they're the ones. They're the ones. And they're both gone now. So.
How long ago?
My dad's been gone for 15 years. My mom passed away in 2009.
Sweet stories, because even the restoration, because it is hard when you have teenagers are tough. Teenagers are tough. We're all tough when we're teenagers, and teenagers that we have are tough. And but it's great to see that come back, because some families don't come back, Thank you. Question 3, and this is a little bit of a challenging one, because it's it's personal. So tell us a time, take us back to a place, kind of paint the picture, what it was like sometime in your past, or a couple of times, whenever, that you've really struggled with hope, where things have been really hard for any reason. What's it been like, and why was it so hard? I mean, you seem like a really hopeful person now, so
yeah.
Has it just been perfect for you the whole time, and what's back there?
No, it hasn't been perfect for me the whole time. I think my life challenge has been my daughter, and I was a young mom. I was 17 when I had my daughter. I married her father in high school, and we were together until I was 19. And when we divorced, I decided to come to Alaska, because I'd moved out of state to go to high school. So while I was in high school, my junior year, I got pregnant, got married, had my daughter.
So did you have to move because you were pregnant? You couldn't stay in the same school? Or?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually, I did go to, I was living in southern Indiana, and I went to what they call the Teenage Parent Program. So I went to TAP school.
Wow.
In Louisville, Kentucky. Anyway.
But you moved then because you got married and...
No, my father actually transferred.
Okay, it was a normal family.
My family moved in 1971, and I was just starting school. So I didn't go to I went to high school in southern Indiana. So I moved here when I was 14. So I was a young mom. When I got divorced, I moved back to Alaska. That was, at that time, it was the start of the startup of the pipeline. So I managed to get a job because I was working. I graduated midterm my senior year. I graduated midterm, and so I went straight into working. Alaska or Anchorage was the place that I felt most comfortable in raising my child, and I knew I had opportunities up here, and especially with the pipeline starting up. So I worked as a secretary for Exxon, and it was a decent paying job. I was able to afford to get a car, get an apartment, and at the time, my child care, I didn't receive much child support from my ex-husband, but the child care at the time, there was a child care program that helped you based on a sliding scale, helped you pay. So things were pretty good in the city, and so I was able to make ends meet and not go on welfare or anything like that. So as my daughter grew up, she started having some mental health issues, including an attempted suicide at 16 years old, which was very difficult. Throughout the years, we've gone to counseling. She's been in and out of my life a lot. Right now, she's out of my life, but she has a daughter who is living with me. My granddaughter has lived with me for most of her life, so it's her struggles have affected her daughter as well, but she has us, my husband and I, and so we have kind of been the stability in her life in the 15 years of her life. So she's actually doing quite well. She did make an attempt to try and live with her mother last year, and it just didn't work out. So in February, I got a call from her, and she was living with her mom in Montana, and she says, "I can't do this anymore. I want to come back to Alaska." So we got her up here, and she's doing really well. So I'm keeping hope alive for my daughter that she get help, because I also found out that she now has a son, an infant. I am just hoping that she will get some help and make her life a more positive life for her and her baby. Mm-hmm. And my biggest hope is that we get back together again, and that we can have communication and be able to share our love with each other. I mean, I love my daughter tremendously, but I've also had to kind of let that energy go because it was draining me, and I'm putting my energy into helping my granddaughter get through school and get into college, and it's not that I feel like I've lost hope with her. It's affected us so much, and we've felt this. We've gone through many cycles of issues with her, and in counseling, you got to take care of yourself as well. So that's been my biggest struggle, and I still hold the candle for her, and hopeful that someday things will come around.
Thank you for sharing that. That's pretty personal stuff. Makes me sad for you and your daughter, and makes me happy for your granddaughter that she has somebody that's really reaching in there to help. And hopeful that your daughter someday, if even, I'm sure my life and her life aren't the same, but if like me, she can kind of come back to some things. I'm so grateful for some of the people in my life who kind of stayed around through some of my darkest times, because they gave me a place to come back to, I need a place to come back to. A great note there that you're practicing well is having boundaries when there's a hopeless situation, if it's not you that's struggling with the big thing, because a counselor of mine kind of told me it this way. He said, you picture a guy in a circus or a circus performer, and they're spinning these plates like some of the clowns and jugglers do, and they can get 5 or 10 or however many plates they can get spinning on these sticks at one time, but you can only keep so many emotional plates spinning at one time, and it takes a lot of emotion to have a relationship with a granddaughter or a daughter or a spouse or your next door neighbor. Each person gets a little different amount of emotion. Your male man, male woman, whatever would be the gender neutral term for that. They get less emotional connection than your parent or spouse. So anyway, I think you're practicing that setting some proper boundaries and unfortunately having to ration some emotional energy because you just can't be all things to everybody. You wear out, and then you won't be there for her maybe someday when she does come back.
Well, one of the things that I found that I couldn't express to her, face to face, because she basically disconnected from me, was to write her a letter. And, in the letter I just said, I picture us one day being together again as a family. I recalled one time that we spent not too many years ago when my granddaughter was doing a soccer tournament where we were together and we were laughing and we cooked together and we had a great time, and I said I want to feel that again. I want us to enjoy each other. Life is too short, and we've got to get past whatever the demons are, and try and be a family. I couldn't imagine going through life with that much stress on you, because it felt like it was killing me, and I was having health problems because of the stress. It was affecting me, and so I had to take care of myself and take care of Gianni. So anyway,
thank you. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. I know a lot of people do, because it's so hard, and for me, learning from getting to do these interviews, and then Vivian here sharing with me, she's sharing with everybody who's listening, and you're listening right now. And if you can talk about your story, even if it's not resolved yet, it takes some weight off to share it with somebody, but it also helps you process and renew that strength and energy to go back and get back to it another day. So Vivian, thank you for being honest enough and open enough to strengthen me and you and the rest of us listening at the same time. Question 4 is, how are you sharing hope today? What are you doing just in your daily life? You're out there, you're doing some stuff at work, you got a neighborhood, you got people you meet in the grocery store, you got a grandchild living with you. What are you doing on a daily basis just to share hope with somebody else as a person of hope?
I think having my dog in my life, and my cat, but my dog especially, because he is never down. He's never down. He's a sled dog. I got him in one of the villages I was working in at the time as a little tiny pup, and he's 5 years old now. But just going, we live right across the street from amazing trail system, and we are in the woods almost on a daily basis. I love just being outdoors, winter or summer or spring, I love exploring with my dog. So, but I also do theater here in town, and this year I worked with 7 amazing young women in a show that I directed, and that was one of the most joyful experiences I've had in the theater, working with women from, I think my youngest was 19 to about 32 years old, and extremely talented women. So I think, the theater has always been my place of refuge in even my darkest times. I think a long time ago when I first got divorced and moved up here, one of the things that I had given up when I was married was theater and dance because I had a little baby to take care of, and my husband was in college, and I was trying to take college classes at the time. But in counseling, the guy said, "What makes you happy?" And I said, "Well, dance. Dance makes me happy. Theater makes me happy." "Well, then you should do it." And I've been doing it ever since. So
Why? Why theater? What does it do?
Well, depending on what project I'm working on, it's always a challenge. It stimulates me intellectually, creativity. It's a creative outlet for me. Dance for many years was. I'm more or less a retired dancer, but I still do choreography. But I think it's that creative outlet, and it's just in my bones. I have to do it, and that gives me, the theater, music, arts gives me a lot of joy in life.
Those are both great answers. I love the dog and the theater, but I'm not a theater person. I love watching theater. We go to a lot of shows anytime we can, but you shouldn't have me on the stage, that's for sure. But I do have a dog, and I love the dog. I can relate to that one, definitely. That's really great. What a great way to be connected in a community. Again, that community and those relationships are so important. And doing something you love and are passionate about in a community, about things and the subjects you're passionate about. I mean, that theater part it just gets all over. There's so many aspects that really jumps on that help people grow and share hope. And question number 5 is really practical. How can I learn to share hope? And my friends who are listening with me, how can we learn to grow in hope ourselves or to share it with somebody else? So the simple 1 or 2, maybe 3 things, whatever you say is, here's what you got to do first. Start here and get going.
I think about what it felt like when someone shared it with you, and reaching out to someone that you might feel needs hope. And I think just if you hold that energy of hope and extend it out into the atmosphere, I think ultimately if enough of us are doing that, it will lift us. Great steps. Back to that sharing thing again. You have to keep sharing that hope. You're doing a great job of it.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the top 10 actions of hope from world leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Vivian, so what's your favorite song? What are you going to listen to when you're just going down the street? You need to pump the music up loud. What's it going to be?
Okay, my hit is hearing my granddaughter at about 3 years old singing, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away."
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the top 10 actions of hope from world leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.